So I'm going to cover about 5 things in my talk. The first is I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I'm hearing on the ground. The second, I'm going to briefly talk about Harper's approach and contrast it with my own. Then I'll talk about Saanich Gulf Islands, and then my vision of Canada. Over the last 4 months or so, I've been talking to people on the ground, and I think the overarching concern of those people is the future of their children and their grandchildren, irrespective of their party. They want our government to work. They want their voices to be heard, and they want their MP to effect change. I think that there's a real problem in this riding that Kit alluded to, and Bryony alluded to, and that is vote splitting. If we're going to win this riding, we must appeal to those on the right and on the left, those in the center, and we must find common ground. And most importantly, we must build on that common ground, which is what the Liberal Party stands for. The Liberal family is that common ground. If as politicians we want to create a policy framework that truly addresses our constituents and affects change, then we need to think, speak, and behave in a way that is not deemed to produce a permanent stalemate. I want to read you an email that my son Riley, who is currently down in Mexico studying, he can't be here, he read to me, and he said, "Hey Mom, I just read your email I sent them." John, my son John up there, and my son Riley emails all the time. "Hey Mom, I just read your email. People have been bugging me about the visa thing. It has changed many people's view of Canada and Canadians. Today alone I was bugged by 2 people, one of whom is a teacher, who said, 'What is with Canada and making Mexicans have to get visas?' I think that Harper has been very short-sighted in his decision and will come to regret it, if it is possible for him to regret anything." And that brings me to Harper's approach. His approach is to split, divide, and pit one individual, one group, one part of the country against another. It is an approach that is doomed to failure. Under Stephen Harper's watch, the environment and species at risk have been neglected. Childcare and early childhood education, rejected. The Kelowna Accord, forgotten. Arts and culture, trivialized and underfunded. Social justice, eroded. Caucus, made irrelevant. Committees, sabotaged. Cabinet, emasculated. Canadians, abandoned. Canada, disgraced. As Michael Ignatius says, we can do better. Let me tell you a little story. As Bryony indicated, I was a rancher, owned and co-owned and managed a 500-head cow-calf operation in BC's interior. And in the spring, you take out your cows with the bulls, and you ride them on horseback, and you drive them up to the range. And the bulls do their thing with the cows, and then they leave them. And in the fall, the cows come home, you herd them home, and they're relatively easy to herd home because they want to come home. But the bulls, they don't want to come home. They are often on their own, and if you're lucky, you can get them into a corral on the range. And then what the cowboys do is they take the trailer up to the range, and they load the bull in the trailer. In order to load the bull in the trailer, they take what I would call a test of wills approach. So they might take a stick or a cattle prod and a lot of loud voices and a great deal of sweat and get that bull loaded. Of course, sometimes the cowboys weren't home, but I was. And I had 2 little children, one a newborn baby and a toddler. And I'd have to go get that bull in the range because you can't leave it in the corral because there's no water and food. So I would load the children up and I'd take them up to the range with the trailer, and I'd back that trailer up to the corral, and I'd open the gate of the trailer and the gate of the pen, and I'd create a funnel, and then I would take the lid off the bucket of water I had in the front of the trailer, and I'd spread the hay out in front of the trailer, and then I'd take the children out of their car seats and we'd go sit under the ponderosa pines in the grass, and we'd have a snack and we'd play for about an hour. And then I put the children back in the car seats and I close the back of the trailer and I drive home and I unload the bull. Two approaches. One is a test of wills. It might be faster. It gets lots of adrenaline flowing, but it carries the risk of collateral damage. Bulls, cowboys, fence of a trailer. The second is the hay and water approach. My approach. It requires problem analysis, understanding our strengths and weaknesses, appreciation of our mutual needs, willingness to collaborate. A win-win solution is the ultimate objective, and collateral damage, well, it's just not an option with a mom with two children. The people of Saanich and Gulf Islands are demanding of us a collaborative win-win approach. They are demanding leadership that will bring us together by finding our common ground. I believe this is one of the most forward-thinking ridings in the country. We have an enormous wealth of talent, expertise, and intelligence. Look around you. In this room, the old, the young, and everything in between. World-renowned writers, artists, publishers, pioneers in the field of paleomagnetism, biology, ecology, geology, climate change, conservationists sitting beside lawyers, accountants, First Nations people, telecommunications experts, academics and teachers, top Canadian business leaders, fishers, farmers, and some of the last remaining meat producers on Vancouver Island, and the list just goes on. In Saanich Gulf Islands, you will find many examples of local leadership. We are striving to find common ground between the environment, the economy, and our lifestyle, so that we can coexist in relative harmony. We are garnering the wisdom of our very best to deal effectively with issues like climate change, education, childcare, health, law and order, food security, housing, economic growth at a local level. Central Saanich decided to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions by 10%. They did it in 18 months, and they exceeded their goal by a wide margin, and now embarking on a new emission reduction program that's much more ambitious. Saanich Peninsula Hospital is still open despite reductions in funding. Why? Because the community got together. They built a group to support it and they funded it. Saanich Gulf Islands is rural and pastoral, yet amazingly we can combine this beautiful environment with world-class businesses and institutes. We have an innovative aircraft manufacturing industry that employs highly skilled professionals. We have a world-class marine research institute. We have a number of Nobel laureates. Saanich Gulf Islands has a new and thriving spice manufacturing business, a world-class cheese industry, an emerging wine industry, a growing local agricultural sector. We do this while housing an international airport and a major ferry terminal. And the list goes on. To win this riding, we need someone who will listen to and understand our constituents, who will build that common ground, who will take our expertise and talent to Ottawa and will effect change. I have a vision of Canada as a world leader where we value social justice, where we act as the honest broker amongst major powers in the peace process, where we appreciate Canadian inventions like the medical isotope production, where we do not abandon our Canadian citizens abroad. Check out your lips. Look on your passport, because Stephen Harper has given a new meaning to the phrase, read my lips. I want to live in a country that leads the world in climate change initiatives, where our Prime Minister can recognize our economic situation and protect Canadian citizens, not deny an economic crisis exists and then encourage Canadian citizens to invest in the stock market on the eve of its crash. I want to live in a country with a government that has the foresight to use stimulus funding as an opportunity to support and encourage innovative Canadian research, businesses, and help families to reduce our dependency on fossil fuels. I want to live in a country where we protect and recognize the value of our Fraser River sockeye salmon run, not allow it to crash from 10.6 to 1.7 million with no one on watch or explaining why. I want to live in a country that values science and innovation and doesn't appoint a science minister whose concept of evolution is women wearing high heels. I want to live in a country that supports the CBC and doesn't hamstring it with inadequate funding. I want to live in a country where the children of our First Nations people do not live in poverty and in ill health. I want to live in a country where our children and all the world's children have hope for a better future. I am running because I am totally committed to doing what I can do to make this country and this world a better place for our children and our grandchildren. The people of this riding are looking for leadership and inspiration from this party. Elect me. Give me the chance to provide that inspiration. Let us find that common ground. Thank you. I would be honored to be your candidate.